Welcome back everyone to WJEC's Vocational ICT series. Today we're going to be exploring Unit 1.2.1, why data must be fit for purpose. So we're going to be focusing on quality of data. So learning objectives for this video, we're going to be looking at the difference between data, information and knowledge. Now I know them words sound very similar, but they mean very different things. And you need to understand the difference between the three and how data becomes information, how data becomes knowledge. We're going to be looking at why data must be fit for purpose before it goes into a system, the need for good quality data, which goes hand in hand with the previous point, the benefits and drawbacks of encoding data, and the advantages and disadvantages of storing data using our ICT technologies. So first off, we mentioned in the last slide data. So data, information and knowledge, all very similar sounding words, but they mean different things, and we've got to know the difference between them. So data is raw facts and figures. Now there's some examples there on the screen. So the number 24, for example, that could be anything. It could be someone's age, it could be someone's door number, it could be a whole host of different things. Similar to the word green. Now, green can be used in a lot of different contexts, so it could mean lots of different things. So how does data become information then? So if data is raw facts and figures, in order for it to become information, that data has got to be processed. So data that's been processed and given context. So if I was to say something like, these are the ages of the students in a class, suddenly data makes sense then. Now, how does information become knowledge? Well, if I was to say that the student's age between X age and X age, so for example 14 to 16, should be entered for their level 2 exams. So decisions have been made using that information that we've been given. So raw facts and figures is data, information is the data that has been processed, and then knowledge is what we derive from the information that we've been given. So we're making decisions. It's knowledge in action, for want of a better word. So why does data then have to be fit for purpose? So there's lots of reasons why data needs to be fit for purpose. The main reasons is if we have bad data going into our systems, we're going to make bad decisions with it. We're going to get garbage going in and we're going to get garbage coming out. So good data is smart data, which means it's got to be accurate. It's got to be up to date, it's got to be complete, it's got to be consistent, and it's got to be relevant. So always check that the data that is going into your systems meets the needs of whatever you're going to be using it for, because if it doesn't, it's not needed, it's not relevant, therefore it's going to just give you garbage when you come to process that information. For information to be useful, the data behind it must be fit for purpose, like we've said. So in other words, accurate, complete, up-to-date, relevant and reliable. And like I've said before, remembering that bad data gives us bad decisions. It's garbage that's going into our systems, and it's going to be garbage that comes out. For example, if a customer's address is wrong, and you've got a business and you've got your customer address wrong, orders are going to get lost, payments might not be getting paid, sales figures that you're producing are going to be incorrect because you haven't got the right payments through from the right customers, all sorts of different things. So it's important that you check your data, like I said, before it goes into your system or before you process it. So a feature of good quality data, I'm not going to read all of these, I'll go through a couple of them. So accurate, so straightforward enough, names, clients' names, customer names, addresses, anything needs to be spelt correctly. If it's not, then you're going to find that invoices aren't going to the correct houses. Customers are going to get annoyed because they're being referred to as the incorrect name. So it just avoids errors. Up to date. So you've got up to date addresses and information, payment information from customers. If it's not up to date, you're not going to get the money in that you need. You're not going to be able to use that data effectively. So it's relevant information. And then consistent, same format. So I've seen a lot of people where they're collecting things like dates. So maybe somebody's done something on certain days, or they are collecting payment on certain days, and they use a different date format for each time they collect that information. So standardise your data. So for example, day, month, and then year, or some people prefer year. So like 25 for 2005 rather than 2005. Easier to compare that data once you've processed it and you're using it. Again, it stops errors as well, and it keeps things nice and consistent. Encoding data. So this kind of goes hand in hand with the last one that we talked about there, where we were saying keep your data consistent. So encoding data is all about making it shorter and turning it into like a standardized form, keeping it consistent. So for example, gender going from male or female might just be reduced to an M or an F. You see this in lots and lots of different systems. So another common one is month. So we might store the month January as 01 through December, which would be 12. Days of the month. So on your timetable, you would not see Monday. You might see MON, M-O-N. Tuesday would be reduced to TUE. Ratings, so people that send out maybe surveys or asking for feedback on different things might do a star rating. So instead of asking for thoughts from people, they might do a 1 through 5, or they might do a 1 through 5 stars, or something like along them lines. So it's standardizing that data that's being captured and making it smaller. There's benefits to that. So benefits of encoding means that data can be entered faster. It means that you can check and validate it a lot quicker. It saves on space, so it makes the data more efficient. So if you are collecting a lot of data and you're storing it in a database, reducing your gender field to an M and an F rather than the words male or female is going to reduce the amount of storage that's needed. It's going to be quicker to search and process. However, there are some disadvantages to encoding data. It can be misinterpreted. So for example, M could mean male or it could mean married. So again, you've got to make sure that your the fields and the data that you're capturing this information in is correct and accurate. Another disadvantage is it can lead to loss of precision. So if you think about the ratings example that we had there, so very satisfied becomes just a 5 on a scale of like 1 to 5, so it loses detail. Using ICT to store data then, so very quickly, so information communication technology, ICT, systems have helped us to store huge amounts of data. So advantages are much more quicker to search. If you think back to your database examples that we've been doing, you can search vast amounts of data very, very quickly using queries. So you can find information in seconds rather than going through it page by page manually. It's easier to update and share. Multiple users can access that data in one go. And data can be backed up easily. You could have a database of 10,000, 20,000 clients that can be backed up within minutes rather than stored in a different site. So if anything happens, you've still got access to that data. Moving on to disadvantages. So obviously when we've got things on an electronic system, these systems, if they're connected to a network, do have security risks. They can crash, they can be hacked. Staff need to be trained how to use them. This is a common one that people don't think of. So using databases, using electronic systems, specialized software comes with training. So if staff aren't instructed and shown how to use it correctly, then that can also introduce errors. Hardware and software costs money ultimately. So computers, PCs, hardware devices that create networks, these all cost money, and they all have a level of technical expertise that go with it. So again, that's something that people and companies need to consider. And then also the main one is privacy laws, which we will talk about in another video. So things like the Data Protection Act must be followed. If you're collecting information from clients, from customers, you are bound by certain laws, and you need to ensure that your data is used and stored correctly and in line with these pieces of legislations, or else you could face potential fines, you could face potential jail time and different things like that, which we'll talk about in another video. So how do we apply it then? So typical question on the screen there: a local gym stores customer data such as names, contact details, membership types and payment history. The manager complains that some customers are being sent bills even though they have already paid. So explain why it's important for the data stored by the gym to be fit for purpose. So this is where we're talking about the accuracy, it's up to date, it's consistent, all of these different reasons why data must be fit for purpose before it goes into a system. So it's important that a gym's data is accurate. So we're already talking about some of them key characteristics of data that's fit for purpose. So it's important that a gym's data is accurate, complete and up to date. So the information that's produced is reliable. So we already know, we're now saying there that these are the reasons why it's got to be fit for purpose, so it's reliable. If payment data is incorrect or out of date, the system might not show that members still owe money when they don't. So we're linking it, it's in context with the question that we've been asked about the gym. Having fit for purpose data allows the gym to make correct decisions, avoid customer complaints and maintain trust. So we've said why data must be fit for purpose. We've talked about how it affects the gym in terms of if it's not fit for purpose, the people might think that they owe money when they don't owe money. And then we've said why they must make sure it's fit for purpose, because it's going to help with customer satisfaction, it's going to maintain trust, it's going to make sure that we've got the correct information to bill our clients and things. So typical model answer for a 4-mark question. Right, so your turn. So bronze style question, simple and straightforward. State what is meant by the term data for 1 mark. So if you want to pause the video there and have a go at answering that one. So state what is meant by the term data for 1 mark. Data is raw facts and figures that have not yet been processed. So the highlighted in blue is the key bit of information to get that 1 mark. Silver tier question, explain why encoding data can make it clear to store and process, make it easier, to store and process information. So 3-mark question. So pause the video and have a go. Right, so 3 marks. So encoding, we're going to talk about what it is first. Encoding reduces the amount of space data takes up and makes it quicker for a computer to process. So we've talked about what encoding is and one of its advantages. For example, so we're going into an example for our marks. Using a code such as M or F instead of full words saves storage space and speeds up searches. Now it might be that you get a question in your paper that talks, for example, in that last question, it talked about the model one, it talked about a gym. So if it's talking about a gym and it leads on to a question like this, keep your example in context with that original scenario to ensure that you're picking up marks and you're keeping your answers in context. Right, gold tier question. So this is a 6-mark question. A small business uses a spreadsheet to store customer orders. Describe the advantages and disadvantages of using ICT to store and manage this data. So pause the video and have a go. Right, so using ICT allows the business to store large amounts of data efficiently. So we've given an advantage of using ICT straight off the bat, and search and sort it quickly. So another advantage. It's easy to update and share and back up. So we've talked about some advantages really quickly there. Easy to update, share and back up customer records, reducing paperwork. However, there are disadvantages. Systems may crash. So ICT is not foolproof. It does tend to crash. It can crash for lots of different reasons. Data can be hacked. Staff training or software does cost money, and business must also follow the data protection laws such as GDPR to protect the customer data. So we've talked about and described in detail the advantages and the disadvantages of storing our data using ICT systems. Right, so to recap, data is raw facts and figures. Information is when data is being processed. Knowledge is when we derive meaning from it, so when we're making decisions based on that information. Always make sure your data is fit for purpose, and remember that bad data means bad decisions, or garbage that goes in means garbage is going to come out. So bad decisions, bad data, bad decisions, good data, good business. So next episode, the next video that we're going to be looking at is file types. So please like and subscribe for more videos like this one. We are going to be moving on with this unit of work and looking at file types, compression and file properties. So I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.